well, ladies and gentlemen, we are live again. This is our second Instagram Live, and we're focusing on the Styrian Grand Prix, the Austrian Grand Prix coming up.
Yeah.
Or they just happened.
I call it Spielberg, you call it Spielberg.
Spielberg.
I say
that from our friend Lan.
I say it from someone down south. Chris says it more like, how do you really say it?
Spielberg.
Spielberg. Okay. Styrian Grand Prix in Spielberg.
And it was an awesome race, but Charlie, we've got a really cool Cadillac sitting behind us, which is going to appear in an upcoming video. I think we're actually promoting it right now on Instagram. We've got this great Cadillac back behind us.
Yeah, over Chris's shoulder there, we've got a 1983 Cadillac Touring Coupe, and it's one of only about 2,000. It was built to compete with BMW and Mercedes in the early 80s. If you'll notice, it doesn't have any big crests on top of it. All the badges are flat. It's got sport wheels. It's got bucket seats. Like, they never made a Cadillac like this before. And it was really interesting that it was supposed to compete with BMW. It didn't really work for a Cadillac, but we have this amazing piece of history. We're having to speak up a little bit because the secret headquarters for the speed travel, I think it's getting raided.
Well, yeah, that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. But the Styrian Grand Prix was actually pretty exciting. You know, there was a lot to live up to this race, and qualifying was kind of interesting. Of course, we know Max Verstappen ended up on pole, Lewis Hamilton was second. Bottas actually qualified third, but was given a penalty, a ridiculous penalty for spinning in the pits. I mean, how many times have drivers spun in the pits? They lose their wheels, they get a penalty, but they've spun in the pits before, and for the first time ever, Formula One levies a 3-place grid penalty to Valtteri Bottas, who just can't get away with anything.
No, he can't. I'm not as lenient as you are on the rules. I think it was dangerous. Yeah, it happens all the time. But he plumb lost it, and it was, there could have been guys staying in the pits there, and you could have taken out 4 guys. So
yeah, but the only time they've ever shown a penalty is when something comes off the car, or he's released in an unsafe manner. He just spun the car. So are we going to start penalizing people for spinning on the track?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're penalizing them now for going over, out of bounds, which is a brand new thing. But it is what it is. It's Formula One in 2021.
Well, the big benefactor there was Lando Norris for McLaren, who did qualify fourth, an incredible qualifying effort, but then moved forward to third place for the start of the race.
Yeah, Lando's really been on it. I mean, I've been very pleased with his performance so far this year. Our buddy Zach Brown is doing a great job with the McLaren team, bringing them slowly forward.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job. I mean, both Lando and Danny are doing a really good job. We'll talk about their racing, what went on the race in a moment. But qualifying, Perez was actually 5th, but moved forward to 4th, and Bottas ended up starting 5th. Now, Perez getting 5th, I don't know, that's kind of my underperformer for qualifying.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's fantastic. He's money in the race, but he's got to get a little bit closer. I mean, he's got an amazing car. He's got to get a little bit closer in qualifying.
Well, I mean, it's clear that they've got a fast car because Max is driving the wheels off that thing, and he crushed the Mercedes this week.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely, he did.
I mean, Mercedes, with good tactics, Mercedes didn't have an answer for them. But qualifying was really cool. We saw Lando Norris Carlos Sainz and Leclerc up in 6th and 7th, I believe it was. Let me double check that. 6th and 7th. Lance Stroll for Aston Martin pushes his way forward into third quality into 8th place.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think we've got our wrong page up. I think those are the final results as opposed to qualifying.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong page. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. As I remember, 6th was the AlphaTauri, and what was great about that, Gasly, is Gasly's killing it this year. A little side action if you're into betting on Formula One. The AlphaTauris and the Honda engines in that car was doing really well at 2,100 feet of elevation at the Red Bull ring. So for those of you wagering people out there, when they get to 7,000 feet of elevation in Mexico City, you might want to throw a few bucks on the AlphaTauris because that car is performing great in qualifying and the race.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's performing well at high altitude.
Both drivers. Gasly and Tsunoda are doing a great job with the AlphaTauri. But we have to talk a little bit about McLaren again, in that Danny Rick didn't even come close in qualifying.
Yeah.
Lando Norris qualified the car real fourth place, pushed to third because of Bottas's penalty, and Danny Rick was in 13th.
Yeah, I think it's a tale of two teams for sure. Lando is up there in fourth, killing it. Ricardo's down there, what did you say, 12th, 13th, and qualifying. Same with Ferrari. I believe Sainz was down in about 12th, and Leclerc was seventh. So definitely a lot of disparity. And also Red Bull. You could say Red Bull too. Max is driving the wheels off right now. Perez just not quite killing it in qualifying yet.
Right, but definitely showing his mettle in the race. And granted, it's only his eighth race for the Red Bull team.
And you can say that for Daniel Ricciardo as well, but you would expect Daniel Ricciardo to adapt a little bit faster, and it's a little disappointing at the moment.
Definitely should be closer to Lando Norris.
Should be.
That's my opinion. But again, great starting grid for the Styrian Grand Prix in Austria at Red Bull Ring. But the race was pretty exciting, to get started.
The race wasn't bad. For me, I was waiting for it to rain once again. I'm always doing my rain dance. So I was waiting for it to rain once again. And there were some clouds in the area. I think it would have made for a great race.
It would have. And, last week I said it's going to rain. It always rains at the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah.
It always rains at the Red Bull Ring for the race for at least 3 laps. And
yeah, exactly.
nothing. It was like 85 degrees. It was perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
it rained that night pretty dramatically, so that probably had an effect on the race start as well, or the tires. But the tires lasted well.
Yeah, they did. And things went about as planned in the first stint. Max just kind of slowly pulled away in that first stint. He realized what a good car he had.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton in second really could do nothing. And then it was Sergio Perez. And then Lando. What about Lando getting passed by Perez and Bottas? He didn't even make it hard on him. I mean, I get sticking to your schedule, but he didn't even make it hard at all.
Well, I hear you, but I think that Zach Brown or the strategy from the team saying, let's run our race. We're not battling here for first, second, third, or fourth. We're not, let me rephrase, they're not battling the Mercedes, and they're not battling the Red Bull, and that's what was in front of him.
Yep.
So I think they help Lando just kind of keep control of his race and not worry about what's going on behind him with Perez. They probably just said, let him go, man. We're racing the Ferraris. We're racing these other teams. We're racing the Aston Martins. We want to be what they call the best of the rest, and quite frankly, we're going to see Lando on the podium eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I just thought it was odd that he made it really easy on Perez to get by. Also, it kind of messed up Perez's race because he got stuck behind Lando for quite a while,
right?
And it really kind of slowed him down.
It did.
And then I guess we have to talk about the first pit stops. There again, Perez, they had a 4.5
Well, we got to talk about lap 1.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got to talk about lap 1 because honestly, I'm going to go right to this. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari got drive of the day after causing basically the demise of Pierre Gasly between turns 2 and 3, basically turn 2, by basically trying to sneak in underneath him and cutting his tire. He took Gasly out of the race in the AlphaTauri, who was driving great.
Yeah. It's a shame because Gasly's been doing so well. He didn't have the best of all starts, and then they came out of the first turn. They were kind of side by side. Gasly
3 wide. Alonso on the inside, who had a brilliant start.
Right, and you could say that Gasly pushed Leclerc wide, but he really didn't because you can't go 3 wide through turn 1.
No.
So Leclerc was on the outside, and then he kind of came back in. And he just clipped the back of Gasly's tire, and that was that. I mean, it isn't that much different than last year when he did that to his teammate, Vettel, almost in the same place.
Almost in the same
Except for that time, he was going for the inside pass. This time, he was going for the outside. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I was shocked that he got drive of the day because he caused a lot of trouble.
He also get a penalty for taking someone out of the race.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and even during the F1 broadcast, the announcers were saying that they thought that it was not a good move by Leclerc. I agree. He probably should have got a penalty, but
racing incident, perhaps, but drive of the day, absolutely not. absolutely not, just because he caused that accident. But great start by Alonso, who was tucked up on the inside of Gasly. Like you said, Gasly didn't get a great start.
Right.
Alonso, I mean, if he'd been able to hold those positions, he moved so far forward from the start. Same with Leclerc, and also who was also really fast. I think it was Danny Rick moved really far forward. Of course, with the contact, a lot of drivers moved forward because of that. 2 places because Gasly was out, and then Leclerc had to pit immediately for a new wing. So 2 guys in the top 10 are immediately in the back of the race. And then, so a lot of other drivers moved forward 3 spots, like Stroll moved forward 3 spots. But 2 of those were based on those 2 guys basically taking out the race for that moment. Kimi Räikkönen actually moved forward 5 places from the back of the pack in the middle of all that schlemazel. So biggest move at the start of the race, first lap, was 5 places. Yeah, it was Kimi Räikkönen. Yeah. And Kimi Räikkönen, this is going to be the good thing for Ferrari is Kimi Räikkönen's driving a Ferrari engine in that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, they love that.
So, yes.
So on to the first pit stop. So the top 3 did pretty well. They got through. Perez got screwed, so Perez lost 3rd when he went in and had a 4.5 second stop. That wasn't great. Bottas passed him, and then Perez spent quite a long time trying to get that position back.
Right.
Up front, it wasn't quite as exciting. There was a spot right after the pit stop where Hamilton was running some fast times, and he was being close, but he just couldn't. He just couldn't hang. Max was just not going to be denied. No. He was too fast there.
No.
At this point, also those 2 with the class of field, they were way ahead of. First and second was way ahead of 3rd and 4th.
Absolutely, and Max was walking away for the most part. But, and also a good start was out of George Russell in the Williams. I mean, I believe he got into Q3, right?
Yeah.
He got into Q3, he was driving the car.
Well, he missed it by 2 1,000.
Oh, that's right.
So he was 11.
But he drove forward at the start of the race. He moved forward about 3 places, and in the first pit stop cycle, I think he pitted on lap 23 or 24, one of the first drivers to pit, in points. In the points. I believe he was running 6th place at the time, and then the Williams had a pneumatic pressure issue of some kind, whatever, and he is the first retiree. And honestly, in those first 21 laps, my drive of the day would have been George Russell, because he put that thing in a serious point scoring position. First time for Williams in a long time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable he could do that well, even in qualifying. He's known as Mr. Saturday because he's such a good qualifier, but he did an amazing job, and it was kind of heart-wrenching to see that car go out.
Yeah,
you're dying for the guy to have a good result.
Yes. I mean, he's a nice guy from everything we can see. He seems like a really nice guy. Who doesn't love the Williams story? I mean, Frank Williams started the team back in 1973, I think. And it was the last team to be wholly owned by an individual.
Right.
Frank Williams owned it. Claire ran it for the many years. They have great world champions in Ayrton Senna. Excuse me.
All of a sudden, Apple wants to do a commercial in the background. So I'm going to put my hand over that unless they pay for it.
Do we have any blue tape? And it would have been great for George Russell to score some points for the first time in a long, long time. Yeah. Great drive by George. He was running a real fifth place. He definitely would have been in front of the Ferraris at the end of the race because he had the pace. Yeah. Because Leclerc had to go all the way to the back of the pack and move forward. Sainz kind of stayed in that spot the whole race through that first pit stop cycle. And then, who was it? A couple drivers went really long, like 44. I guess it was Perez again.
He went a little bit longer. He went too much
longer. Let me check my notes.
But so essentially everyone was waiting for rain. It didn't happen. And it just kept going. And Max was slowly pulling away. I think really the thing to me that was most interesting, it was basically a one-stop race for everyone. I think what was really interesting is once again, Christian Horner is getting the GOAT of Mercedes. Perez was behind Bottas for third, and Perez acted first. The team acted first. They got him in the pits, put him on a new set of medium tires with 16 laps to go, and then went out there and was doing 2 seconds a lap faster laps at the start.
Yes.
Didn't quite work, but was really interesting is the strategy, just like the week before. With Max passing Hamilton with about 2 laps to go. It was really interesting to see Red Bull mix it up a little bit. and throw in that strategy. It was a one-stop race, but they couldn't get by Bottas, so they're like, what the hell, let's bring him in, let's put him on a fresh setup.
See what happens.
And it was really interesting.
And drivers that went long were Carlos Sainz and Danny Ricciardo. Danny Ricciardo was actually moving forward really nicely. He had a weird engine glitch that lost him like I think 3 or 4 spots.
Yeah.
But then he ran long and pitted I think on lap like 44-ish. Carlos Sainz did the same thing. He went long. And again, Carlos Sainz did a great job of keeping that car nice and steady. Never was in any difficulty. Didn't stress the car at all. It just had a nice, clean, easy race.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc had to come pounding forward from the back of the pack, and he did a great drive.
He did.
But I will say this again, and no penalty, in passing Kimi Raikkonen around lap 45, he clipped Kimi Raikkonen. He chopped Kimi's wing and took out the end plate on Kimi's wing, going into I think it was turn 4 or 5, and. Again, another contact, racing incident, sure, but I don't know, penalty worthy perhaps.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I'm a big Ferrari fan.
Of
And I
course.
feel like he's maturing at a slowish rate because he still is guilty of doing this, quite often.
Right.
And he ran into other cars, 3 times at this race.
Right.
And he got away with it. Ended up finishing in 7th, I believe. And so he ended up getting the driver of the day. But I'd sure like to see him mature a little bit.
From other people, not from me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think from you either, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think Charles Leclerc believes he should be further up in the pack, and the Ferraris really should be. And I think that's why we're seeing Zach Brown making some calls. Lando just let them go.
Right.
We're racing for
Stick to his strategy.
We're racing for 5th place. On a
Best of the rest.
The best of the rest,
Yeah.
and they did that. And Lando has been very, very excellently skilled driver, but
Right.
has been very calm throughout the races.
So the final portion of the race, it wasn't the most exciting race in the world. Max just kept putting more and more distance between them. I think the most exciting thing was seeing if Perez was going to catch Valtteri Bottas for 3rd, and he got within a half a second. He just couldn't. He needed one more lap. They pitted him with, I think, 16 laps to go. After the race, Christian Horner was like, we should have pitted him 17 laps to go. He probably would have got him. And that, to me, was the most interesting part of the race. And then ultimately, Lando finished 5th. So Lando stuck to his strategy. He won best of the rest. So, I guess Zach Brown got it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, like you said, it was a little bit of a parade throughout most of the race. The middle of the pack, Alonso was driving great, battling with his old buddy Sebastian Vettel, battling with Kimi Raikkonen, but passes were just not being made. I was a little surprised at the low volume of passing, especially with 3 DRS zones on a very short track.
Yeah, there was definitely. Let's hope it turns around this week.
Yes.
They're going to be back there again. But before we get to that, let's just talk about a few outperformers of the race. So ultimately, Atlanta was 5th. We had the Ferrari pair 6th and 7th. So congrats to Ferrari. Because from a not great starting position, both of them, they got those cars up there. The Ferraris got some good race pace.
They really did. And I think if, there's a real possibility if Leclerc was cleaner, he might have been battling for 3rd even.
Yeah.
Because he has the skills, and the Ferrari is much better or much more competitive than it was last year against the Mercedes. So is everybody else. So, look what Max and Perez are doing with the Red Bull, and so is everyone else. The Aston Martins are both being driven very, very well by Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Lance Stroll, he was 8th. Great, mature finish for him, 8th place. That's probably about the best they were going to do. So fantastic job there. Alonso, 9th. So I think that's two weekends in a row, top 10s for Alonso. So he's kind of starting to feel his oats.
Yeah, and Tsunoda was P10 in the AlphaTauri. So great points for AlphaTauri, or not great points, but points for AlphaTauri, points for Tsunoda. Showed maturity, something he's been lacking a little bit, and he did not spin throughout qualifying. He did not have any incidences during the race, and he scored a solid 10th place and scored points for the AlphaTauri. A little bit of frosting on a cake that was kind of taken out by Charles Leclerc when he took out Gasly. But, and I want to say this. I'm not picking on Charles Leclerc. I think he's a fantastic driver. I think he's a character as an individual. Of course, I love Ferrari, but he made some mistakes today or yesterday, and I think we got to call out. You got to call out everybody. If you're going to call out Tsunoda, if you're going to call out Mazepin, you got to call out the others. And Bottas did spin in the pits, so okay, he got called out by F1. He got that penalty.
Yep. So your outperformer of the race?
First half of the race, George Russell.
Okay.
George Russell, first half of the race. At the end of the race, gonna have to probably go with Lando Norris for just keeping his nose clean. I mean, Max drove the wheels off that car. He was gone.
So. Oh yeah. I mean, it's hard to pick Max as an outperformer because he was fantastic all weekend. Didn't put a wheel wrong. Got Red Bull their first win in their home track.
First time ever.
And so it's hard not to make him the driver of the weekend because he just killed it. Absolutely killed it. But if we got to look a little further down the grid, I think for me it's Carlos Sainz. Because Carlos actually started, I believe, 12th. He made his way up. He went long. He made his way up to 6th place. He probably could have got Lando because he had fresh tires on at the very end. The problem is Lewis Hamilton had lapped him, and he was behind Hamilton for about 15 laps, and he just couldn't get around him, or didn't want to get around Hamilton, and it really kind of screwed his race because I think he could have hunted down Lando at 5th. So
I think
for me, it's Carlos Sainz.
And I'll agree with that. And actually, maybe a good point to bring up is as the leaders were lapping traffic throughout the race, it really was kind of messing, because of the short track, it was messing with a lot of other people's races. Alonso, lost a lot of time in his battle with Vettel. Vettel lost time, Stroll lost time, and that was a pretty good battle that was interrupted by Max and Lewis just going so bloody fast.
Yeah. So next week they're back. This Sunday they're back at the Red Bull Ring again.
They are.
So what do you expect? Anything?
Rain. It is going to rain. It always rains.
Let's hope
at the Red Bull
rains.
Ring.
Yeah, let's hope it rains. But probably a little bit more of what happened this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some risks being taken because I think everyone was pretty conservative. I feel like we're going to see a little bit more risk taking from not only the drivers but even some strategies.
Right.
And it also depends on what tires they allot for. Pirelli allots for the race because they went with the C2, 3, and 4 compounds, which is dead center of the 5 compounds.
They're going softer. They're going with the 3 softer tires this weekend.
So that's going to change it too. So that will definitely precipitate, I think, some more pit stops.
Yeah, because most teams want a harder tire. Ferrari definitely, Carlos Sainz said, the harder the better.
Right.
So they're going to give up that harder tire this weekend. So you're right. It'll probably be a 2-stop race this time.
Especially if it rains, which it will.
I think that's about it for the race. A couple of quick notes we want to talk about, and that is the Speed Traveler is premiering, featuring this car, LA Tours, on Thursday on YouTube. So check out YouTube. That's our channel on the Speed Traveler on YouTube. It's really about LA Tours.
Yeah, well, there's going to be more of them. We've only done 1 episode so far, and we realized that there's no way you can cover everything there is to do in Los Angeles in 1 day.
Yeah, even in a Ferrari, you couldn't get it done.
No.
So,
and there's no traffic.
we visited some great tourist spots, and when we're from LA, so we wanted to visit all the places that we kind of grew up around. We went to Rodeo Drive, the Hollywood sign, Union Station, the beach, the Beverly Hills Hotel, Hollywood Strip. It was really a fun day.
It was a fun day, a lot of great stops, and we're going to do that. You'll enjoy the first episode, and you'll enjoy the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, however many episodes we do on LA, because there's so much to do. And you know what? We want to do this in other cities. So if there's someplace fun to go, if there's a great driving route and places to go see in another city that you live in, message us and tell us about it, and maybe we can get out there.
Yeah. Before we sign off, are there any questions? Well, we're just checking here, looking over my left shoulder here.
What is one risk you want to see next week's race?
You want to answer that first?
I want to see people go to super soft tires early. I want to see everyone on soft tires, and I want to see them race really, really hard. No holding back. Lando Norris held back. I want to see him race forward. I want to see what Charles Leclerc kind of did. except for bumping into people. And I want to see a nice, aggressive race. Safe, but aggressive.
Yeah, I think because of the soft tires, I think what I would say is most teams went with 1 pit stop. I would say I want to see someone try 2 stops, maybe even 3 stops. I mean, that would be very aggressive.
And the pit delta's not that bad, so
No, it's
you
about
know,
21 seconds.
something like that. I mean, it's a short track. It's a very short track.
10 turns.
Yeah, 10 turns. Well,
In a minute 5
yeah,
lap.
a 65-second lap. It's pretty quick. But by the way, did you do any iRacing this week?
I did. On Saturday night, I killed the Red Bull race. But of course, crashed on lap 3.
Oh, perfect. So Charles, how was that race?
Yeah, I'm sure people really want to know about that. We're going to play a video next time.
Yeah.